I think you're in a unique position to answer this question, having been in the halls of power, having been a state legislator, and now being, I don't know if the term is just private citizen or maybe a veteran lawmaker. Let's just say somebody, you're at Food Lion tomorrow, and somebody approaches you and you guys are small talking, and you learn that this person literally just moved to North Carolina. Like they're unpacking their car. They came to town yesterday to move to North Carolina, and they want to know, they want to understand what's happening in Raleigh right now. And I mean, like, right now, late spring 2025. What do you tell them?
I tell them that there are plenty of things they need to be paying very close attention to, because so much of the attention goes to what's happening in Washington, understandably so. It's on every major news outlet. You're going to see a lot of that. But a lot of the things that happen in Raleigh are what are going to really affect your day-to-day life. So when you start talking about, for example, taking the state board of elections, when we are in the middle of a case where people's votes are getting thrown out potentially, and saying, what we're going to do? We're going to politicize it a little bit more. There's not enough politics in the state board of elections. We need to judge it up a little bit more, right? That's a huge issue, because now you don't even know if, when you go to the ballot box to pick people, already have a problem with the fact that there are a lot of districts here that are not competitive, where somebody can literally waltz in, not try, and win.
Thanks, pal. Gerrymandering.
Right, exactly. So, this is a real issue that people need to know about. They need to know about the fact that every session there's a bill that comes up that somehow changes things. It's usually called a farm bill, but there's usually something in there that people don't talk about that really affects how you even get food to the table, right? We need to start having conversations with people where we take the big words and make them into understandable things for people, right?
Sure.
And it's a huge problem. So anybody that's moving to North Carolina, I will let them know, pay very close attention to what happens in Raleigh, because one of the biggest stories that happened out of North Carolina for the past 10 years was what? HB2. That didn't happen in D.C. It happened right down the road in Raleigh. We need to be paying attention to that. There are a lot of things that are happening, and I think the people who understand how important what's happening in Raleigh is the people that are running the show there. They're the people that are trying to take this state in a direction that it has never wanted to go. Say what you want to say about moderation, but North Carolina's always, for the last 20, 25 years, we've really had voters that have kind of been more, a dash of this, a dash of that, not people that are trying to go crazy one way or the other.
Right.
And folks need to understand that there are people who are running the show right now that don't have that philosophy. They want to go hard right. And it's not in the best interest of a lot of people here.
So let me just play, I'm the guy at Food Lion. And maybe this is the first time. This is going to be the whole episode, isn't it?
Hey, look, this is the first word. We set the tone.
That's I should have known. And maybe this is the first time I'm hearing about the attempt by Raleigh Republicans to take away the power, the governor's prerogative to appoint members of our state board of elections. I could see a situation for a lot of folks where their gut reaction is, weird, didn't know about that. But that doesn't seem like such a bad thing. I mean, we do vote for a state auditor. I mean, they are elected. It's not, that person's still accountable in some way. So isn't it just taking, I guess for lack of a better metaphor, powers out of one pocket and putting it in the other? What would you maybe say to that in that scenario?
I would say that it's an issue that actually went to the voters. The voters voted on this.
Right.
And they said, we don't want that. And every opportunity, this has happened almost every session.
Yeah.
And I'll just be completely blunt with y'all. What happens is when people who are running the show right now in Raleigh think, we got an issue that's going to be a winning issue. We're going to take it to the voters. We're going to let the voters vote on it to make it a constitutional amendment. And then the voters say, nah, we don't like that.
Yeah.
They say, well, we actually know what you really want to do. We're going to try to do it another way.
Yeah, right.
So you can't have it both ways. If you're going to say, we're going to go to the voters and we're going to respect what the voters say, then respect them, right? Don't try to say, I'm going to figure out a way to get around what the voters said, right? So if you're not from North Carolina, you might say, what's the big deal? I would say, well, millions of people voted on whether or not it was a big deal, and they decided it's a big deal. We want to keep it the same way. I think sometimes, I'm not one of these people. I don't believe in bashing the Democratic Party for bashing the party's sake.
Sure.
I'm not that person.
You're not about like a circular firing squad.
I don't.
That's not your thing.
No. But as everybody knows, like I'm a huge Carolina fan. I was raised right. I'm a big Tar Heels fan, and the team that I'm hardest on is UNC.
Sure.
I'm hardest on them because I want to see them succeed.
God, you're so right. Like all the biggest Tar Heel fans I know are also the biggest Tar Heel critics.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And as much as like I can't stand Duke, like my wife went to Duke, love her to death, love her in spite of, I also have a grudging respect for them because they bring it.
Yeah.
I know that game's going to be hard regardless of what the records say. So I'm going to be critical of the Democratic Party. If you want somebody that's going to be a cheerleader for Democrats and say we're doing everything right, I'm not your guy. But if you want somebody that's going to just dump on us because we took an L, I'm not that guy either. But one of the things we have to do better as a party is we got to stop using $10 terms for $1 ideas. If something is an easy to understand concept, then we need to make it easy to understand. The point of speaking, the point of language is not to just sound good, to be poetic and flowery. There's a moment for that. But sometimes I think we want to sound right instead of sounding convincing. We don't want to go to people and say, this is a pretty simple concept.
An opportunity economy. Like what does that mean?
Right.
Like what does opportunity economy mean?
Right. It's we don't want to try to win the slogan wars, right? We don't always want to say, well, I think there's used to be this idea, right, that we want to have everything looks good on a bumper sticker. And we have to sometimes remember that sometimes people can't afford cars.
Well, I'm going to I'm with you on that, where we can't always afford cars, but we don't win any slogan wars, right? Pro-life, 2 words. That's a slogan, and it wins every time. Like, that's just, taxation is theft, right? Wins every time. Democrats, I feel like there's no 3-word, 4-word, 1 syllable in each one of those words that we can win from. We have that is our Achilles heel. I do think we should have some type of slogans that make it, because, if you're not pro-life, what are you? That means you're pro-death. They win that pretty heavily.
I think there are instances in the not too distant past where Democrats have crushed it at the slogan game. Yes, we can.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, the last time North Carolina flipped, it was a yes, you can. Yes, we can.
Prime example, trying to win that slogan. Like, we need to get something.
Yeah. I think to kind of marry both of y'all's ideas together. When it comes to winning the slogan war, sometimes what we end up getting into trouble over is that we want to come up with a good slogan, and then when people are like, yo, what does that mean? We can't explain if you were talking to an Obama supporter in 2008, they could explain to you what yes we can
That's
meant.
right. Anybody
You
could.
got to have the top and the bottom. You got to have the whole point of having a good slogan is that it's a good way to summarize what you're already thinking.
Yeah.
Right? You're putting an easy to understand package around something that you already know. So when people say things like opportunity economy, okay, cool. What does that mean? And you're like, that's the problem.
Yeah.
But I think the reason people could define like a yes we can slogan is because there was a person who coined that term who could define it for you, right? Like this goes back to
there was a chosen messenger already.
There was a messenger that everybody could look at and go, okay, those are the talking points we're going to parrot coming from that guy, right? What he says, I'm going to say, and how he justifies it, I'm going to justify it. And so I think, where we are right now, like I have this conversation all the time with many, many people, most recently my brother, where he's like, man, like, what are Democrats doing? And I'm like, which ones? Because, Chris Murphy and Maxwell Frost were just here in Alamance County. Yeah. They crushed it. I've never seen the Hall River Ballroom packed with that many people. Huge crowd, right? And people were fired up on the same page, united in defiance. So, if your question
simple
is...
messaging.
And an incredibly simple messaging.
Like Maxwell said, if you're a Trump voter and you're here, my message is simple. I'm sorry you were lied to. Welcome to the team. Everybody can define what that means, right? Everybody is ready to go. There's no hate involved with it. I'm sorry.
No, I told you so.
Yeah.